This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Introduction. Literature is very important in society. Any literature material aims to pass on moral virtue to the target audience. Although it seems obvious to expect a moral lesson from literary material, critical analysis of the literary material shows that there are negative impacts as well. Society derives its moral values and ethics from literature since students mature and become reliable members of society after reading and experiencing literature's moral lessons. The moral lessons students get from literature mold their lives, which clearly reflects literature's positive impacts. On the contrary, literature materials can negatively affect society's moral values and ethics. The controversy over the effects of literature has made the great philosophers, Plato and Aristotle, differ in their perceptions of literature's impact on society. Hence, although literature has some negative effects on the individual and society, the positive impacts outweigh the negative ones. The role of literature. Plato and Aristotle differ in their approach to the role of literature in society. According to Leitch and McGowan, both men approach the critique from different perspectives, Plato from an idealistic deductive viewpoint depicted in the dialogue format, and Aristotle from the realistic, practical, and inductive viewpoint in essay format. Plato and Aristotle perceive that literature has lasting emotional stimulatory effects on individuals and society, but they differ on whether the effects are positive or negative. Plato argues that literature has a negative effect on individuals and society. His argument is based on his perception of the literature from the dialogue format. In his literary analysis, he argues that poetry inspires undesirable emotions in society and should be censored from adults and especially children for fear of lasting detrimental consequences. The cause of the detrimental consequences is weakened control of emotions, which the children are more susceptible to because they are emotionally and mentally immature. He explains that children have no ability to know what emotions should be tempered and which should be expressed, as certain expressed emotions can have lasting consequences later in life. Plato classified the literature in a bid to determine the degree of literature to which children and adults should be exposed. Plato further explains that children must not be told about scary stories and horror tales because they stimulate strong negative deep emotions that make them develop fear and lose courage. On the other extreme, the literature that strongly inspires laughter too triggers a strong emotional response that is detrimental. Plato's argument is that strong emotions of every kind must be avoided, in fear of them spiraling out of control and creating irreparable damage. Thus, the literature's stimulatory effects have lasting consequences on the minds, and especially the minds of the children, and the effects will determine whether one is emotionally weak or strong. According to Al-amour, Plato believes that poetry corrupt and spoilt the society because it teaches us immorality, evil, bad manner, and crudity because the characters in the poetry lie, cheat, deceive, and enjoy torture the people, so he thinks that poetry is dangerous and take us further away from reality. Plato believes that although literature has positive impacts on morality, it has more negative effects on moral ethics and values in society. Aristotle's argument differs from Plato's as he argues from an inductive essay format. He perceives literature as an effective way of passing information and integral to the learning process of children. He further argues that literary representations are pleasurable because they impart beneficial knowledge. Objects potentially harmful in nature can be depicted and studied in close proximity without fear. Aristotle believes that literature enhances teaching because the information is portrayed in an objective manner to convey the right meaning without necessarily stimulating negative feelings in the students. Literature affects society in two ways. In one way, the effect results from actively reading, while in the other way, the effect results from passive observation, but all of them stimulate our emotions and minds, hence attaining different conceptions of morality and ethics in society. Denny argues that Plato believes in the absolute reality, and that poets depict things as what they are, so the poetry, according to him, distort the reality. On the other hand, Aristotle argues that poetry takes us closer to reality because it teaches and warns us, and shows us the result and the consequences of bad deeds. Thus, literature is a way of learning but can have both negative and positive impacts on our lives and society. Conclusion. A critical analysis of the literature content reveals that there are inherent negative effects that would have detrimental consequences for the children. The literature materials given to children or the literary presentations require careful selection with the consideration of the age of the children. Differing arguments of Plato and Aristotle have revealed the importance of literature in shaping individual lives and the future of society. If you want to find more works like this compare and contrast essay on Plato and Aristotle on literature, head over to ivypanda.com. It has a collection of free samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects. No registration required to access it.